When was the last time you truly looked in the mirror and felt proud of the person standing before you? Not proud of flashy external achievements, but proud of your very character, your choices, and your own inner self. In a spinning world where the noise of judgment and self-doubt besieges every corner of the soul, we frantically chase external validation while forgetting the most important harbor, ourselves. Stoicism does not teach selfishness. On the contrary, it regards self-compassion as an essential survival skill. You cannot build a steadfast life upon the soft sands of approval from others. Today, we will step onto the journey of forging the inner citadel, a place where you learn to master your emotions, embrace your wounds, and transform every flaw into a source of strength. If you have ever felt exhausted from trying to please everyone, this video is the wake-up call meant for you. Stay until the end, because when you learn to love yourself with the fortitude of a stoic warrior, the storms outside will no longer be able to touch you. 1. When the past becomes an invisible vice. We often walk the path of life with a heavy backpack on our shoulders, filled with nameless memories, harsh criticisms from our past, unfulfilled expectations, and the clumsy stumbles of our youth. We carry them around like a life sentence, telling ourselves that we are incompetent, that we do not deserve happiness because the past has proven so. But have you ever asked yourself, who is holding that invisible vice, squeezing tightly around your soul? It is neither time nor the people who once crossed your path. It is the inability to let go and the lack of compassion for yourself. Stoicism opens a door of light to liberate us from that prison, beginning with a core principle. We cannot control external events, but we have absolute control over our reactions. Epictetus. The past is frozen, the judgments have been spoken, the wounds have left scars. Not a single power in this galaxy can turn back time to alter a moment that has passed. Yet, the power we hold in our hands, the ultimate and only power, is the way we perceive, react, and converse with those memories in the present. The fated encounter, sitting face to face with the inner child. Try to shut out the noise of the outside world. Put down your phone, turn off the relentless notifications, and step into a quiet space of the mind. Imagine you are sitting in a room flooded with the light of the setting sun. Sitting quietly on a small chair right before you is your younger self, a child with wide, fearful eyes, helpless against the early storms of life, carrying innocence and unfulfilled desires for recognition. Look deeply into those eyes. What do you see? Is it the confusion of a child once scolded for getting a math problem wrong? Is it the resentment of being compared to the neighbor's child? Or is it the loneliness of having no one stand by their side in the most unstable years? Most of us, when facing that image, have a primary instinct of reproach. We tell ourselves, why was I so foolish back then? Why was I so vulnerable? Or, I should have been stronger. We continue to whip the bruised child, remaining harsh toward a soul that simply needed an embrace. Yet Stoicism does not teach cruelty toward oneself. The true fortitude of an inner warrior lies in radical empathy. Try changing the question. Instead of judging, ask yourself, what would you say to that child? Grant it what it never received in the past, forgiveness, and an unconditional comforting embrace. Whisper to your past self, you have worked hard. The days of bracing yourself to bear judgment are gone. From now on, even if the world turns its back, I will always stand by your side, tearing off the labels. Human value is a constant. One of the greatest mistakes of modern man is equating traumatic experiences with self-worth. When treated poorly, we automatically deduce that we are incompetent. When stumbling in career or love, we stamp the word failure across our foreheads, Stoicism fiercely refutes this through the lens of reason and human nature. Marcus Aurelius, or Seneca, reminded us of the nature of a rational animal. You were born with the capacity for thought, self-mastery, and an independent soul. The scars of the past, the harsh criticisms of society, are merely external circumstances, sudden rain showers falling on the roof of your life. They may wet the yard, they may snap a few flower branches in the garden, but they absolutely do not have the right to define the core structure inside your house. Learn to separate your human value from the ups and downs of circumstance. Your value does not fluctuate with your bank account balance, does not increase or decrease with the admiring glances or scorn of others, and certainly is not lowered by the mistakes of your youth. That value is a constant, eternal, enduring, and deeply rooted in your benevolent and rational nature. When you understand this, self-doubt will vanish. You realize that you deserve to be loved not for what you achieve, not for being perfect, but simply because you exist in this world as a unique entity. The journey of healing begins with mindfulness. Healing is not a magic spell that erases all painful memories, because history cannot be rewritten. Healing is truly the act of changing the meaning of those memories in your mind. When an old wound resurfaces, instead of panicking or trying to escape through work, all-night parties, or shallow relationships, a practitioner of Stoicism will slowly pause. You look straight at that scar, smile, and say, "Thank you for coming, because you have taught me what resilience means." That is the pinnacle of self-compassion. When you stop viewing your differences, hidden corners, or past wounds as burdens, and start embracing them as chapters that give depth to your autobiography, you are laying the extremely solid first bricks for your inner citadel. The past is not an iron cage imprisoning your future. The past is fertile soil, fertilized by both tears and smiles, where the roots of growth plunge deep into Mother Earth. When you learn to reconcile with your inner child, when you untangle the toxic labels and realize your own constant value, you will step out of the darkness with a completely different source of strength. You no longer need to beg for love from anyone out there, because your soul is fulfilled from its inner source. You are free, you are proud, and you are serene in the face of all judgments of the world. The journey of healing begins the very moment you decide to stop warring with your own past, to embrace the present with all empathy and tolerance. Remember, in a world always poised to cast judgment, the most loyal, enduring, and understanding companion, always and forever, is yourself. 2. The fortress amidst the tempest, the sanctuary of the soul. Close your eyes and envision an ancient fortress standing tall amidst the open sea. Out there, violent waves roar, raging storms knock down trees and sweep away everything in their path. But inside those thick stone walls lies a strangely serene space. Warm firelight flickers, torches illuminate peace, and the master of the fortress calmly reads and enjoys tea, completely unshaken by the roar of nature. That is the perfect metaphor that the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest masters of Stoicism, encapsulated regarding the inner citadel. In his work Meditations, he wrote, "Man can find no quieter, more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Yet modern human beings do the exact opposite. We dismantle all protective walls, wide open the doors of our souls, to let idle gossip, toxic judgments, toxic relationships, and unreasonable demands flood in and ravage. We are afraid of being hated, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of disappointing others. As a result, we become the custodians of a desolate house, where everyone has the right to enter and exit, except for its true master. Self-love, through the lens of Stoicism, is neither selfishness nor cold isolation. It is the clear realization that your vital energy is finite and immensely sacred. You cannot pour water from an empty pitcher to quench someone else's thirst. Before you wish to save or accompany anyone, you must learn to protect yourself. The painful yes and the power of no. Every day, we utter dozens of yeses unconsciously. Yes, let me help you, even though I am overloaded. Yes, I will come to that party, even though I am exhausted. Yes, I agree with that viewpoint, even though it contradicts my values. Have you ever asked yourself, every time you say yes to something that makes your inner nature scream in refusal, what are you actually saying? You are saying no to yourself. You are strangling your inner voice, slapping your own self-respect in the face to buy temporary approval from others. That is the most sophisticated form of mental abuse, abusing oneself for the sake of society's recognition. Stoicism teaches us the art of letting go of things outside our control and focusing entirely on what belongs to the inner self. Setting boundaries is the foundational exercise of that focus. Many people mistakenly believe that boundaries are cold, reinforced concrete walls separating people from people. No, true boundaries, as the script has pointed out, are doors that allow you to control who and what is permitted to enter your life. A house has a front door and a lock, not out of hatred for the outside world, but to protect the loved ones and precious possessions within. Your soul is the same. You have the right to refuse venomous judgments. You have the right to walk out of energy-draining relationships. You have the right to say, "This is enough. This space belongs to my peace." That firmness is not rudeness, it is the fortitude of someone who knows how to cherish themselves. Respect cannot be built on sand. Look deeply at how society operates. Millions of people are building the house of their self-respect on the shifting sands of peripheral praise. They live for a like, for a polite compliment, for the momentary admiring gaze of a stranger on social media or in the workplace. When those praises pour in, they soar on cloud nine. But with just a single criticism, a cold glance, or accidental indifference, that entire sandcastle collapses completely in a split second. They suffer, torment themselves, lose sleep, and plunge into profound self-doubt. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that the judgments of others are the noise of leaves rustling in the wind. They cannot touch the core of a steadfast reason. If your value depends on the opinions of others, you have turned yourself into a slave to their emotions. You hand the key to your life's happiness over to people who do not even truly understand who you are. How ridiculous that is. The only applause with weight in this world is not the roaring applause of the crowd in a flashy hall, but the silent applause from your own inner self. When night falls, you lay your back on the bed, look straight at the ceiling, and smile proudly, knowing that throughout a long day, no matter how stormy, you still lived fully by your core values, never bowing to falsehood, never compromising with evil, and never trading your serenity to please anyone. The silent watchman of the inner citadel. Becoming the watchman for the inner citadel is a lonely yet glorious journey. There will be times when you feel solitary, as the people who only knew how to exploit your obliging nature gradually thin out. There will be times when you feel a pang of sadness, seeing people walk away indifferently because they can no longer manipulate you. But do not be afraid. That filtration is the greatest gift boundaries bring. When people carrying toxic energy leave, that is when the space inside the fortress becomes spacious enough for the light of peace, freedom, and wisdom to overflow. You do not need to explain too much to those who do not wish to understand. You only need to stand firm, smile, and lock the doors of your soul against the turmoil of life. Conclusion: the most steadfast fortress lies in your heart, Building the inner citadel is not about erecting a weak defensive mentality, but about cultivating inner strength so powerful that no matter how the external world spins, no matter how roaring the storms rage, your heart remains as flat and calm as a lake, without a single ripple. When you know how to protect your energy, when you courageously say no to things that erode your soul and proudly utter yes to true values, you have truly stepped onto a new height of the art of self-love. Do not let anyone steer the boat of your life. Grip the oars firmly, hold your head high, and remember, the most impregnable fortress does not lie in those external stone walls, but right within a heart that knows how to set boundaries and protect its own peace. 3. The mirror, reflecting the scratches of the soul. Try standing in front of a mirror just once. Remove all layers of defensive masks and look closely at your body as well as your soul. What do you see? A wrinkle at the corner of your eye from nights of tossing and turning in contemplation? A small scar on your hand reminding you of a clumsy fall in your youth? Or a soul that is sometimes too sensitive, easily wounded by the harsh currents of life? Since childhood, we have been nurtured by judgmental remarks. Why are you like this? I wish she were a bit more perfect. Or, this flaw will be a major disadvantage for you. Gradually, those words seep deep into the subconscious, turning into a vice that squeezes the life out of self-confidence. We begin to view our differences as sins, as burdens, as stains that must be hidden at all costs. We become enemies of our own bodies and minds, always seeking to erase, cover up, and punish ourselves for not meeting the imposed standards of the majority. But Stoicism, with its core philosophy of living in accordance with nature, offers a completely different, beautiful, and liberating invitation. Nothing in nature is wrong or out of tune, including the imperfections of your body and soul. The art of redefinition, from scar to symbol of fortitude. In nature, the greatest ancient tree has never been one with a perfectly straight trunk, smooth without a single blemish. On the contrary, the most resilient trees, standing firm through thousands of storms and thunderbolts, are often those with gnarled trunks, bearing large scars, and strangely twisted branches caused by storms that struck them down, yet allowed them to rise again strongly. Those wounds do not weaken the tree, they are eloquent proof of its intense vitality and ultimate survival capability. Human beings are the same. Seneca or Epictetus never taught us how to become perfect, emotionless machines. They taught us how to accept reality with all wisdom. A scar is not a sign of weakness. A scar is evidence that you have fought, have gone through pain, and have survived. When you change your perspective, redefining weaknesses into unique characteristics that create your life story, a psychological miracle will occur. Your hoarse voice is no longer an inadequacy, but holds a depth of experience. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, but a delicate antenna, understanding the pain of humanity. Humble height or distinct physical features do not diminish your value, but are the unique marks the universe has carved to distinguish you from billions of other beings on this planet. When you stop viewing your differences as burdens and start embracing them with all pride, you are laying the first foundation stones to build an unshakable self-esteem. At that point, no criticism from the outside world can hurt you anymore, because you have turned the very weaknesses that once made you ashamed into the most steadfast pillars of your inner strength. The power of self-compassion, embracing the wounded child. The outside world is already too cold and harsh. Do not take it upon yourself to bring down the whip upon your soul one more time. The art of living for a Stoic requires not only steel discipline, but also boundless tolerance toward oneself. That is self-compassion. Imagine if your closest friend stumbled, burst into tears due to insecurity about their appearance or failure in their work. what would you do? Surely, you would not scold them for being foolish. You would not criticize their appearance or push them away. You would place a hand on their shoulder, gently embrace them, and say the warmest words, "It's okay. Everything will be fine. You did very well." Why can we be generous, patient, and kind to the entire world, yet be extremely harsh, bitter, and cruel to the only companion who goes with us throughout our entire lives? It is time to change the internal dialogue, self-talk. Every time self-doubt arises, every time you stand in front of the mirror and feel disgusted by some point on your body, stop immediately. Take a deep breath, smile, and tell yourself in the tone of your closest friend, "I accept myself with all this completeness and incompleteness. I love even the scars, even the imperfections, because those are the pieces that make up a real human being." Overcoming the shackles of artificial perfection. The obsession with perfection is the most sophisticated trap imprisoning human happiness. We frantically chase after illusory standards, must be beautiful, rich, intelligent, must always be happy, and must never be allowed to make mistakes. But perfection is a phantom that does not exist. It resembles the horizon. The closer you get to it, the further it recedes, leaving you with an exhausted body and an empty soul. Stoicism reminds us of the law of change and the finite nature of human life. Instead of wasting precious energy trying to become a flawless but lifeless stone statue, why not courageously become a unique original, with damages, with scratches, but overflowing with vitality and warmth? When you understand that true beauty lies in authenticity, you will liberate yourself from the shackles of external judgment. You do not need anyone's permission to be yourself. You do not need to be perfect to be loved. Conclusion: self-respect is when you embrace your whole self. Turning imperfections into pillars of strength is not a magic spell to change appearance overnight, but a revolution in perception. It is the moment you loudly declare to the world, "Who I am does not depend on whether I am perfect in your eyes, but depends on how I stand firmly on my own 2 feet." When you learn to treat yourself with kindness, patience, and compassion, old scars will turn into medals of honor, imperfections will become unique charms, and your soul will stand tall to become an invincible fortress. The journey of self-love begins the day you stop fighting your own imperfections, to embrace them with all empathy. Because after all, only when you dare to bravely face and love the complete dark part within yourself, you will truly possess a spiritual strength that nothing can shake. Love is an enduring journey amidst a life whirring with changes. When the sunset falls after a long journey of striving, people often sit down with themselves and ask, "How far have I come? Have the recent efforts been worth it?" We are always obsessed with destinations, success milestones, titles, or standards of happiness laid out by society. We firmly believe that self-love is also a reward, a brilliant milestone that we can only touch when we have become perfect, when our bank account is flush, when our figure is slim, or when all storms have settled. The illusion of the perfect finish line and the bitter truth. Since we were children, we have been inoculated with a default formula of happiness. Try to study well, you will be rewarded. Be obedient, everyone will love you. Or, achieve this position, you will have the right to be proud of yourself. It is this conditional thinking that has inadvertently turned our self-esteem into a barter commodity. We tell ourselves that we are not good enough, not beautiful enough, not successful enough to be allowed to love ourselves. What is the result? We enter a race with no stopping point. When we lose weight, we feel we are not muscular enough. When we achieve our dream income, we fear economic recession or more distant goals. Perfection is like a mirage in the desert. The more we desire to rush towards it, the further it recedes, leaving behind an exhausted body, a withered soul, and a self-doubt that gnaws away day by day. Stoicism, the pinnacle of ancient wisdom painstakingly cultivated by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, or Epictetus, has long seen through this psychological trap. The philosophers never taught us to wait for the perfection of external circumstances to begin living fully. On the contrary, the foundation of Stoicism lies in reality. The only moment you truly possess is this present, hic et nunc, here and now. Self-love is not a medal handed to you when you conquer every external battle. It is not the final destination of a trip, but the very road you are walking every day, with all its limping, stumbling, and incompleteness. Rainy days, and the endless inner battle. There will be mornings you wake up, feeling overflowing with energy, looking at life with sparkling eyes, and finding it so easy to love yourself. You smile at the reflection in the mirror, confidently step out onto the street, and are ready to embrace the world. But there will also be stormy days that suddenly rush in. Those are nights of tossing and turning due to work pressure, moments of heartache upon seeing others' success, or when an old wound from the past unexpectedly aches. On those days, accepting oneself becomes a fierce battle. The voice of doubt within begins to scream, "You are incompetent, you are good for nothing, even you cannot love yourself, so who else would care?" It is in those darkest moments that Stoicism truly shines. A true Stoic warrior is not someone who never knows fear or collapse, but someone who falls 7 times and rises 8 times with a strangely serene attitude. Accepting oneself does not mean denying sorrows or forcing oneself to always be toxically positive. Acceptance is the act of you acknowledging the darkness within you, lighting a small candle and saying to your own weakness, "I know today is very difficult for you. You have the right to cry, the right to be tired, but I will never abandon you." Do not wait until life is calm to begin learning how to be peaceful. Embrace yourself right amidst the busyness, storms, and chaos. With all unhealed scars, with all dreams still unfinished, you are still a unique masterpiece of the universe. The strength of a Stoic warrior, loving in sufficiency and freedom. Most of the pain in human relationships stems from a common root, the desperate search for love from the outside. Because we are empty inside, we beg others to fill us up. We cling to a toxic relationship just out of fear of being lonely. We accept being manipulated, being degraded, just in exchange for a few delusional moments that we are cared for. That is not love, it is emotional starvation, the ultimate emotional slavery. But when you practice Stoicism, when you build a steadfast inner citadel and learn the art of self-compassion, a miraculous transformation will take place. You realize that your soul is fulfilled from its inner source. You no longer love others because you need them to save your life. You love them because you want to share the abundance in your soul. Like a crystal clear spring, it does not need to ask for water from anywhere, but spontaneously gushes forth, bringing life to everything around it, while still retaining its primordial purity. When you love with that state of sufficiency and freedom, you no longer fear separation, no longer have blind jealousy or extreme control. You cherish the present, accepting all karmic relationships coming and going as a natural law of the universe. Amor fati, love thy fate. If they stay, it is joy. If they leave, the fortress inside you still stands tall, peaceful, and complete. The daily journey of mindfulness, a lifelong commitment to oneself, self-love, is not a motivational slogan shouted 3 times a day, then forgotten. It is a silent, lifelong ascetic commitment that requires mindfulness in every thought, every breath, and every small choice every day. Every time you choose a healthy meal for your body, That is self-love. Every time you decide to turn off your phone early to let your mind rest, instead of surfing social media until late, that is self-love. Every time you courageously say no to a bitter judgment or an energy-draining relationship, that is the supreme act of self-respect. Stoic mindfulness teaches us to observe our minds like a gatekeeper standing atop a tower, watching the emotions of joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness float by like clouds drifting across the sky, without judgment, without attachment, but always holding firm the helm of reason and compassion. Conclusion: the most loyal ally. The night sky may be gloomy with storms, the road ahead may be bumpy with gravel, and there will be segments of the road you must walk in complete solitude. But please engrave one immutable truth: amidst this vast world, you are never truly alone, because you always have yourself. Stop, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and smile at yourself right now. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait for tomorrow. Start today, right in this moment. Be the most loyal ally, the most resilient protector, and the most understanding soulmate of yourself. Because once you have held your own hand through every storm of life, no storm outside can ever make you submit again. Concluding a 10,000-mile journey in search of peace, the final stop does not lie in some distant land, but reigns right within your own chest. Stoicism does not paint distant illusions for us of a flawless, unblemished life, but places in our hands the most powerful weapon, the fortitude of self-mastery and self-compassion. Do not waste time waiting for a perfect tomorrow or endlessly begging for recognition from the outside world. Right now, amidst the hustle, worries, and even unhealed scars, courageously turn back, ignite the warm fire within your soul, and tightly clasp your own hand. Remember, no matter how fiercely the storms outside may rage, as long as you choose to be your own most loyal ally, you are already an invincible fortress. Begin today.